Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Triple N Media COVID World News. I am Dr. NIK NIKAM. This is COVID-19 update, October 13, 2020. In this presentation, we are going to be looking at the Eli Lilly's monoclonal antibody trial being put on hold. We are going to look at the uprise of the second wave of the coronavirus in the western states in America. On the world scene, there are 38.3 million people who have contracted coronavirus. It has resulted in more than 1.09 million deaths, and the virus seems to be spreading more and more to new countries and also making a second comeback in China, in United States, in Europe, and in Africa. Eli Lilly, the manufacturer of monoclonal antibody, had to put their Active 3 trial on hold for safety concerns. Their product has been put on hold by the Data Safety Monitoring Board because one of the patients developed symptoms. So they have to carefully evaluate the symptoms and see what relationship these symptoms have to the actual monoclonal antibody itself. So until that is cleared, the Eli Lilly's phase 3 trial of Active 3 monoclonal antibody will be on hold. Just yesterday, we heard about Johnson & Johnson putting their vaccine trial on hold as one patient developed some symptoms, and that is being evaluated by the Data Safety Monitoring Board for their product, and when they clear that, the vaccine testing would resume. It is quite common to see these little roadblocks in the path towards approval of a vaccine or a monoclonal antibody. So it's nothing to get alarmed. However, if there is a serious issue that will be coming forth in the coming days. What is a monoclonal antibody? Antibody is a protein. It is produced by body in response to a foreign object such as bacteria or virus. These antibodies can be in different forms. We have the IgM, which is the short-term antibody. We have the IgG, which is the long-term antibody. The body produces the antibodies to fight against the organism, be it bacteria, virus, or anything else. They look like a Y-shaped structure with chains of amino acids, making them characteristic. And these antibodies, as you can see here we have the coronavirus with these little orange spikes. These antibodies attach to these spikes and prevent these spikes from entering the human cell, especially in the lung tissue and in the endothelial cells. So the purpose of the antibodies is to make the virus non-functional so that it will be eventually destroyed and removed from the body by the lymphocytes and the phagocytes. So for right now, the monoclonal antibody by Eli Lilly is on hold. This monoclonal antibody came into the national scene when President Trump received a similar kind of monoclonal antibody known as Regeneron by the company Regeneron, which is based on the same principles. These antibodies are produced from a small sample of plasma from a patient who had recovered from the coronavirus, and these molecules are replicated to produce them in large quantities so they can fight against the virus just as it was produced inside their own body. Now let's switch gears and talk about the United States. United States, as the first wave was tapering down in most of the eastern and mid states, a new surge of cases have appeared. At this time, United States has 8.08 million people with the coronavirus infection. Now let's look at some of the numbers here. This chart is extremely busy, but I'm just going to highlight some of the facts. In the beginning of the second wave, which happened mostly in Florida, Texas, and California, we had high number of cases, reaching as high as 15,000 per day in Texas. However, as the time has progressed, as the waves in Texas, California, and Florida are beginning to come down, we are seeing an upsurge in other mid-states like Tennessee, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, Kansas, and many others, including New York, which is seeing a resurgence of cases, or an increase in the number of active corona cases. The best way to look at these numbers is to look at the graphs of some of these states. So let's begin with Illinois. It had the first wave here, which peaked in the middle of May. Then it gradually came down, but it never reached the bottom. However, during the month of June, July, and August, it continued to go up, and it was showing a trend towards coming down, but it is beginning to go up again. This is a typical pattern we're going to see in most of the Midwestern states, as opposed to what we saw in Texas, which I'm going to show in a minute. And here is a similar graph from North Carolina. Here it had a very small rise during the first peak, but it never reached the bottom. Now it came up with a pretty huge second peak, which is like 5 times bigger than the first one, and it was tapering down, but again it is taking a second spike. It is unclear as to why the number of cases would go down and then pick up again in September. It may be related to the way people are responding to the virus, going like a yo-yo from one extreme to the other in terms of self-mitigation versus ignoring self-mitigation altogether, and now states thinking about regional lockdowns to curb the sudden uprise in certain regions of the state. But nonetheless, as I said, the second wave is followed by a second blip in the Midwestern states, and here's another graph which looks very similar, and this is from Ohio. In the first wave, it had about 500 cases peak. Now it has got like 1,500, 3 times bigger than what it was during the months of April and May. But again, it is still running close to 1,500 cases. So the Midwest is having a significant uprise in the number of corona cases. It is continuing to go up as we speak. And here is the Texas map, which I said I was going to show you. And here we had the initial very, very mute response, but when it came back, the number of cases were almost like 10 to 15 times bigger than what we saw in March and April. But however, the Texas wave has continuously come down, but it has not completely reached the bottom. But still, Texas is registering close to 5,000 new cases per day. So, ladies and gentlemen, the coronavirus is very much here. The coronavirus is not going to go away. The coronavirus is not going anywhere because it has already spread to most parts of the world. Even in China and in Hong Kong and in Japan, they are experiencing new cases of coronavirus. The only thing that can save us is a vaccine, and we have already seen Johnson & Johnson putting a hold on their vaccine trial, and now we see Lilly putting a hold on their monoclonal antibody trials. It just shows how critical science is in trying to find an answer for this devastating pandemic. The simplest answer is covering our faces with masks, keeping away from crowds and maintaining social distance. And by doing these things, we can continue to work and be fully employed, at the same time save ourselves. The only person who can save us is ourselves. We have to take the responsibility. Let us not wait for a mandate from a state or a federal government to wear a mask, to maintain social distance and hand washings. Hopefully, we will continue to do that until such time we have a reliable vaccine that can hopefully bring some sunlight into this darkness of coronavirus pandemic. I am Dr. NIK NIKAM, and while we are talking about coronavirus, I have just completed my book on coronavirus pandemic 2019-2020. A personal guide on how to ride through a pandemic. Check this out on Amazon.com, and we will see you next time. I am Dr. NIK NIKAM. This is a COVID-19 update, October 13, 2020. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.